grab your Bibles, grab your notes. We're going to open up to Luke 17 and be in the scriptures today. I don't know if you guys have any kind of Thanksgiving traditions. There's a very common one, though. One is y'all sit around the table at Thanksgiving, and how many of you do this? Go around the table and tell us what you're thankful for. How many of you do that? Good. I hope you do, because it's a great practice. That can seem kind of, shallow sometimes. We want to really be people that are full of gratitude. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, but Pastor Clayton's going to come and deliver that. So do me a favor, put your hands together and let's bring him up.
So I was looking for just some unique, some weird family traditions that take place during Thanksgiving. This week I found one that I kind of want to try, and I'm a little terrified to try at the same time. What happens is all of the men, they all gather together. Before they sit down at the table, all the guys gather around a scale. And they step on the scale and weigh themselves, and then proceed to go back and eat food. And then at the end, they go back to said scale, step on it, and whoever gained the most Thanksgiving weight wins. There's a part of me that I really want to try that, and at the same time, I don't like Pepto-Bismol that much. So we all have different traditions, different memories, different Thanksgiving experiences. One of my favorite personal ones, when I was in elementary school, my mom and my brother and I, she just didn't want to cook Thanksgiving meals, so we went to McDonald's and we got Happy Meals. And it was awesome because there was no cleanup, no mess, no prep. It was so much nicer. But I don't know what kind of Thanksgiving traditions you guys have, what kind of memories, what the favorite ones are. Somebody in the first service told me their favorite Thanksgiving memory is feeding the firefighters who saved their kitchen from burning down. So I'd love to hear really quickly what some of your favorite Thanksgiving traditions or memories or experiences are. So really quickly, why don't you go turn, if you can, to somebody nearby. We don't do this a lot, but I figure we'll try it anyways. Turn to somebody else and tell them my favorite Thanksgiving tradition is, or my favorite Thanksgiving memory is, go. It's always fun to hear the murmurs and see what's kind of going on. All right, really quick, let me just get a couple of responses. Maybe it's yours, or maybe you heard somebody else say something, and you can just sell them out and tell me what you heard. Is there anybody's favorite, anything that was kind of unique or weird or awkward or just awesome? You got, all right, Rachel?
My grandma taught me how to make apple pies when I was
Nice. See, that's kind of one of the cool, like, sentimental ones. Like, making your grandma's apple pies and being able to carry on that tradition. That's awesome. All right, anybody else? Any other traditions that we have? All right, Rob, what do you got? Thanksgiving at Vasona? Wow. I mean, I know about Christmas at Vasona. I didn't know there was Thanksgiving there, too. That's awesome. All right. All right, any others? Any other fun ones? Right up here? If you guys didn't hear what it is they pray for, did I hear it? You pray for the orphan turkeys and then send them to foster farms. I like that. I like that. God, thank you for this turkey that we're about to eat, and please help all of the kids who now no longer have a mom or a dad. I like that one. Pastor Scott mentioned the other tradition that we pretty much all experience at some point. And maybe it's you, that everybody's enjoying table conversation, everybody's, enjoying, talking about football games or what you're going to watch, whatever. And then the one person, hey guys, hey, everybody, let me get your attention. It's Thanksgiving, so we have to do it again. What's everybody thankful for? And some people love that question. I struggle with it. Because it's not that I'm not thankful for anything. It's that all the answers, even though they're right, even though I believe them most of the time, it feels like I'm telling, or the response that I have in some ways feels borderline inauthentic. It's like when somebody says, hey, Clayton, what are you thankful for? There's a part of me that in the moment says, family, friends, food, freedom, faith, and whatever F's I can also come up with. And it feels like I'm in a beauty pageant when they ask the question, like, what is your wish? And it's like, world peace. Please, come on. You're like a beauty queen. You're not going to necessarily take the next steps to cure world peace. And when I answer that question, there's a part of me that it's like, okay, no, I believe it. But when it comes to my daily life, do I actually act or think or respond? Am I aware of what I'm really truly grateful for? Or am I answering a question on Thanksgiving and then forgetting about it on Black Friday? How is it that we become grateful people? And are we really truly grateful people? We are. There's all things that we're grateful for, that we're thankful for. But if somebody were to observe the conversations with your family or with your coworkers or with your neighbors, if somebody were to look at your journal entries and what you write or what you post on Facebook, if somebody were to overhear your prayers, would they sense an overwhelming movement of gratitude and thanksgiving, or would they see something different? I know for me, gratitude doesn't always come easy. Doesn't always come naturally, like criticisms or complaints or jealousy or envy or pride. I went to Redbox last week because I wanted to go rent Inside Out. My family had seen it and I hadn't, so I was thinking, family movie night, we'll watch Inside Out. And so I ran down to Redbox and I went and I touched the touch screen, looked, found Inside Out, hit the Blu-ray. No Blu-ray. We were out of stock. And for a moment I was like, are you kidding me, Redbox? No Blu-ray? And then in the second right after that, I was like, wait, Clayton, dude, you have a Blu-ray /DVD player. You can easily rent a DVD. But I was so frustrated. Well, I don't get to have my 1080p resolution, HD, whatever. Dude, it doesn't matter. I think we can all admit it's easy to overlook God's gifts. It's easy to overlook blessings in our life because we view our lives through the lenses of unfulfilled expectations, unrealistic comparisons, and personal deficiencies. We miss out on gratitude because we see our lives through these things. Unfulfilled expectations. It's when you want the Blu-ray and they're all out. You should have, man, freaking Redbox, you're killing me here. But sometimes it's our expectations with other people. When your kid brings the report card home and you're like, oh, there's a bunch of A's and 1 B-. That B- can sometimes rob us of just, gratitude and joy because, come on, really? What, are you slacking off in math class? Do your homework, kid. I don't care if it's Common Core or whatever else. You got... That B- tarnishes our view because it's an unfulfilled expectation. Or like vacuuming the house. When you come home and you're like, yeah, the house should be clean, and it's only mostly clean. You get frustrated because, well, they didn't do what I expected them. Or when the weekend comes and goes and nobody mowed nobody mows lawns anyways, but there are no more lawns. But maybe somebody said they were going to change the oil 3 weeks ago and it never got done. And so there's this unfulfilled expectation, and you get frustrated and you get bitter and you start building up resentment because, well, my husband or my wife isn't doing what they said they were going to do, and you miss out on seeing the gifts and the blessings that are right in front of you because you're expecting something, and that unfilled expectation kills and it robs you of gratitude. The other thing that we can have is unrealistic comparisons. The quote, it goes something like this. It says, "We spend money we don't have to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't even like." Nobody struggles with that in this valley. Right? You have a 3-year-old car, but, well, it's not like the new 2016. That model, oh my gosh. I have a 2-year-old phone. But I really, really, really want that iPhone 6S Plus Mega, or whatever it's called. We look at what we have and then we compare it to what somebody else has, and we get frustrated because, well, mine doesn't measure up. Our careers, I'm not as far along as I should be. Somebody else who does the same work that I do gets paid more money, and that's not fair. Instead of being grateful for the fact that I have a paycheck that puts food on the table and a roof over my family's head. Man, unrealistic comparisons, they can rob us of gratitude. And sometimes it's not even comparing ourselves to other people, it's comparing ourselves to ourselves. It's feeling like there's this personal deficiency that robs me of gratitude. I was having a conversation with a friend this past week. He was out of work for 9 months, finally got a job. Monday was his first day at work, and he was like, okay, I have this mix of gratitude and fear. He's telling me, on the one hand, I'm really grateful because I have a job. I've been looking for work for months, and God finally gave me this awesome job. But he was telling me about there's this fear that's mixed in with it because his boss on Monday, the first day at work, he gets told by the boss, okay, hey man, don't worry, kind of take some time, get yourself acclimated, don't feel like you got to rush in right away. Let's kind of get you up to speed, feeling like you got the lay of the land and all that. And I was like, all right, cool. But then Tuesday, his boss told him, it was like a wink and a smirk, like all right, I'm kind of joking. But on Tuesday, he told my friend this. He said, it's stressful for accountants. Dude, it's stressful for finance people because your employment is a quarter at a time. Try screwing up revenue and see what happens. See, in the span of 2 days, you can kind of read, hey, take your time, get comfortable, it's cool, but don't mess up revenue. Don't mess up the work, because if you mess up, hey, you could be gone in 3 months. It's hard to find gratitude because he hears this, and on the one hand, he's grateful, but on the other hand, he starts questioning and second-guessing, am I good enough? Do I need to learn something? Are my abilities up to snuff? I haven't worked for 9 months. Am I behind the ball before I even start? As parents, as friends, as co-workers, as employees, as employers, even as followers of Christ, it can be hard to be fully grateful people because, to an extent, being grateful is a frustrating thing for us. As I've been preparing this message, I've realized more and more that I'm not always as grateful as I really want to be. I think at our core, human beings, we want to be truly grateful people, made in the image of God, patterning our lives after Jesus. We want gratitude to be something that just flows out of us. But these expectations, comparisons, and deficiencies, they get in the way. And so we're going to look at this text in Luke 17, but I want this text to kind of help us ask the question, how do we become grateful people? Grateful people on Thursday when we're sitting around a Thanksgiving meal, and also grateful people when we are shopping for everything on Black Friday? And how do we become grateful people when we're looking at everything on Amazon on Monday morning? Luke 17, starting in verse 11, Luke says that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem, traveling along the border between Samaria and Galilee. Word had spread far and wide. Everybody knew who he was. They were aware of the miracles. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. This is his final journey. He's going there to be crucified. And so he's kind of got his mind set, this is where I'm going to go, this is what I'm going to do. And as he's walking with his disciples, taking this journey, he comes across these 10 exiles, 10 people with leprosy who are forbidden to participate within the Jewish community. Leviticus 13 says that, people with leprosy, the person with such an infectious disease must wear torn clothes, let his hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of his face, and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." As long as he has the infection, he remains unclean. He must live alone. He must live outside the camp. So Jesus and his disciples come across these 10 beggars, people who were removed from their families, stripped of their value, people in desperate need of a gift. And in this moment, as Jesus and his disciples approach, they all call out. Verse 13. They called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." I love when it says they called out. Literally, it means that they lifted up their voices. So some people think, called out verbally, vocally. They lifted their voices. They called out, "Jesus, Jesus." And then there's other people that look and they say, hey, when you raise your voice, you are bringing a prayer before God. Similar to what other people in the Gospels, "Jesus, have mercy on me, a sinner." "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." One of the things that is required to be a grateful person, a fully grateful person, is to recognize that God hears and responds to our needs. Because when Jesus saw them, he said, "Go, show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed. They had a request. They brought it before God. Gratitude means that we stop and we take a look back and we say, "God, you are hearing, you are responding to our needs." Leprosy is not an issue for us in the Silicon Valley. We don't deal with this as an epidemic. But for us, we have other kinds of needs. We need Jesus to show up. We need God's power in other ways. Like my friend who needed a job after 9 months. That God meets your financial needs. As a church, we had a need, and it was so cool to see God hear and respond through the generosity of you. Through the whole GX2 campaign, and I think it's on the back of the bulletin, there was like $183,000 that was given. So awesome to see God move in your hearts, move in your spirits to be fully generous. As somebody who works at this church, who gets paid because of the generosity that you guys have, I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful. Grateful to God, grateful to you guys, because you guys are making me be able to pay for food for my kids. Maybe, though, it's that God brought restoration to a strained relationship. Somebody at work, family members. Maybe there was issues that you were dealing with your spouse, and God's been faithful, and God's brought some wisdom and some reconciliation. Or God brought clarity and wisdom to a family decision or a work decision. What do I do? Where do I go? And God brought wisdom and clarity so that decision could be made. These are some of the gifts. These are some of the blessings that God hears our needs and responds. And a crucial step is becoming grateful people is to recognize that God hears and responds to our needs. Nobody doubts that these 10 people, these 10 lepers, were aware. Like, everybody is in agreement that they all realized what had happened. Because Jesus says, go and be cleaned. And on the way that they were cleaned, or on the way that they went to this priest, they were all made clean. All 10 of them clearly were like, whoa, something happened. God heard, God responded, this is awesome. But the second aspect of being a grateful person is that we express gratitude with our mouths, not just our hearts. And that's something that we miss out all the time. Because one of them, verse 15, it says, one of them, when he saw he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. Expressing gratitude is much more than a thought, it's an action. There was a study done a few years ago, done on gratitude, that I thought was really profound. The main result of this study, what they found was that people think that their own gratitude is increasing. People regularly feel, yeah, I'm definitely a grateful person, but nobody else is. That's kind of what they found the results. 88% of the people polled said that they were just, if not more, grateful today than they were 3, 4, or 10 years ago. 88%. Almost 90% of us would say, I am a grateful person. I am more grateful than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But then these same people, when they were asked about most people, hey, so you're a grateful person, what do you think about the rest of them? 81%, let me put it this way, 19% selected the option that most people are likely to have an attitude of gratitude. 19%, only 19% said that, yeah, most people are grateful. 81% then would have said, no, people aren't more grateful than they were 10 or 20 years ago. So in essence, what they're saying is, I'm a grateful person, none of you are. Which I don't think is actually true. I think that all of us are unbelievably grateful. We just stink at telling people. I think that so often we are grateful and we think about it. Man, I'm grateful for what my spouse did. Man, that thing my kids did, that was so awesome. I was so grateful. But then we forget to, or we choose not to, tell our spouse or tell our kids, hey, thank you. And so we express gratitude with our hearts, or with our mouths, not just our hearts. That's so vital with our relationship with God. Otherwise, all we do is we just walk around and we're like, oh, cool, this is what happened, thanks, God. And then we just immediately move on to the next. And we can quickly forget about what God's done. Psalm 63 places it says it like this: I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. I will be fully satisfied as with the richest of foods. With singing lips, my mouth will praise you. I will praise you as long as I live. I will express my gratitude. I will express my thanksgiving. I will tell you repeatedly with my mouth that you are worthy of my praise. We don't know what was going on in the heads of the other nine guys. Maybe the other 9 guys, they were still over the moon. Maybe the other 9 guys were like, whoa, this is so good. Awesome. God, you are awesome. I can't wait to go home and see my family and tell them and hug them again. They were thinking about all that, but there's a difference between having grateful thoughts and having a grateful attitude or a grateful response. All we know is that of these 9 guys, Luke points out one person, and he responded with his words. He expressed gratitude with his mouth, not just his heart. And then lastly, what we've got, the next one, and you guys have to forgive the typo, it actually says this. It says that we remain grateful by staying connected to God and his people. We remain grateful. How do we do this? By staying connected to God and his people. Because Jesus, when he sees this one man, this one Samaritan, he says, hey, were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except for this foreigner? It's noted, because it said that this was a Samaritan, it's assumed that the other 9 people were Jews. And Jews, the people who for centuries had seen God's faithfulness, God's goodness. They knew the stories that God hears our cries and he responds. And these 9 guys should have. They were the ones that would have been expected to come with gratitude, to come back to, respond to Jesus and say, Jesus, thank you for cleansing us. And so it's kind of with sadness that he says, these 9 guys, they should know. But why don't they? You can know a lot of things about God without necessarily being connected to him. We remain grateful, not by just knowing a lot of things, but by being connected, staying connected to God. My mom had posted this picture up on Facebook a couple of years ago, and she reposted it again last week, and it should be right up on the screen. It says, draw close to God, and he will draw close to you in the most literal way possible. But I love this picture because it reminds me that when we try and do life on our own, our perspective on things can get really out of whack. You notice that the man, the guy over on the right, his picture that he's drawing does not look very happy. That smiley, or that frown, I think is our response. Hey, God, wow, you're doing lots of things, but the expectations, the comparison, the deficiencies, all of these things rob us from gratitude. And so sometimes we draw next to God, we draw close to, we become more intimately connected. In this case, we literally draw next to God, draw close to God. And God's perspective is a little more accurate. When we draw close to God, what happens is he realigns our perspective. We start thinking, well, this is not very good. And God's saying, wait a minute. Don't you remember? I mean, the Old Testament and the New, the Bible itself is full of that, of people who forget. And God says, remember that I have been faithful, that I do this. And so we remain grateful by staying connected to God and also by staying connected to one another. Our community group season for the fall just ended this past week, and a lot of you guys have been in community groups either this season or before, and that's such a great gift for us where we get to be a part of discussions. We get to be encouragers, and we get to be encouraged by one another. We get to pray for one another, and we get to hear and share the stories of here's how God showed up. This is what God did. This is how God answered my prayer. And so this happens by staying connected to God and by staying connected to people. If you missed out on community groups this last fall, they're starting up in January. You should definitely check it out. And all of this, I think, moves us towards being people who are grateful. Now, this is the coolest thing, is that when we let gratitude kind of build within us and well within us, when we allow this to be something that drives and moves us, when we let gratitude for what God's done give us confidence and hope for what he'll do. And this is one of the coolest things. When Jesus says to this Samaritan, he says to him in verse 19, "Rise and go, your faith has made you well." The word for rise and go in the original language, that idea of like rise, get up, it would have been closely identified for early Christians with the idea of resurrection. And so in Jesus' response, in this miraculous provision due to this Samaritan's faith of, God, I need your help, I believe that you can, Jesus does something amazing and awesome, and then he invites this Samaritan Go experience this new life with confidence and hope. Go, your faith has made you well. Rise and go. You don't have to have this old way of life. You are free from this old way. Rise and go. Live this new, grateful for us perspective. The fact of the matter is, though, there's no shortage of hurdles and struggles and obstacles that try and rob us from gratitude. We have to make a choice to remember what God has done in order to give us hope and confidence for what He'll do. And I think we all want to find ways to have gratitude be something that lives within us. You know, we want to be able to be grateful and thankful when somebody asks the question on Thursday. And I think we also want to be people who are grateful and thankful when we go shopping on Friday, or if you go shopping on Friday. And so here's my challenge. In order to be people who can be authentically grateful people, there's a challenge that we can do, and this is kind of what helps us see gratitude a little differently. 5 days of gratitude. Thanksgiving is in 5 days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You guys are all going to eat meals over the next 5 days. We're all going to do it. And most of us, you know, we sit down, unless we forget because we're just really hungry. We sit down and we say, God, thank you for this food. So here's my challenge. Thank God for 2 more things. Find 2 more things that you are grateful for every single time you sit down. So 3 meals a day, or maybe you're one of those people that eats 5 small meals. That's cool. You get more practice. Take some time every day that you sit down and you have a meal for the next 5 days. God, I'm thankful for, I'm grateful for, and here's the catch. It's got to be 2 different things. You can't say, God, I'm thankful for, and then say the same 2 things all week long. That doesn't work. Find 2 different things for each meal. God, thank you for, and it might be something big. Maybe it's, God, you healed somebody in my family of, cancer, and that was awesome. God, I'm so unbelievably grateful. God, you gave me a job. This was awesome. It may be, God, thank you for this chair that I'm sitting on. It seems inconsequential, but when we come to realize, like, the gifts of little things like a chair, we actually get to see gratitude. We get to see God's work and so much more. Pastor Josh, the high school pastor, was just up here earlier. He did something with a bunch of high school kids a couple weeks ago. He said, I want all of you, when you go home, to go and just thank God for everything. Like, for literally everything. So he was walking around. He's like, when you get home, thank God for the doormat that you can clean your feet on. Thank God for the doorknob that locks the door that keeps bad people out. Thank God for the hinges on the door that allow it to stay in. And it was kind of ridiculous to the point of what he was saying, like borderline like thankfulness OCD or something like that. But what was going on is Josh was trying to get students to realize, how do we be grateful? How do we be thankful in so much of our lives? Because we do have so much to be grateful for. Henry Nouwen, was a great man of God, and he writes this. He says, perhaps nothing helps us make the movement from our little selves to a larger world than remembering God in gratitude. Such a perspective puts God in view in all of life, not just in the moments we set aside for worship or spiritual disciplines, not just in the moments when life seems easy. Not just in the moments like Thursday when we're sitting around a Thanksgiving meal. And so how do we find how do we find opportunities to see and to thank God across the board in all different areas? You guys got 13 meals, I think, before Thanksgiving? 14, something like that? Or maybe more? Find 2 things to be thankful for every single meal. And let that be something that begins to birth this authenticity so that when somebody asks on Thursday, hey, what are you thankful for? You can answer, and your answer will be genuine. We're going to have the band is going to lead us in one last song. One of the other ways, guys, that we can be unbelievably grateful and that we have everything to be thankful for is on either side of the auditorium. We can take communion because this is a way to remember, God, you gave your life so that I could have new life. And so as they're singing, if you want to go take communion, do that. But let me pray really quickly, and then we'll move to a period of worship. Father, may this week bring a shift in our perspective so that we can say with complete authenticity, thank you, God.